morning, everybody. Hope everyone can hear me okay. Thank you for joining me. We're just going to give everyone a few seconds here just to get signed in and logged in. We'll just give everyone a couple minutes. I know it's first thing in the morning. Everyone needs to check their email. I believe Team Canada is playing too. We probably didn't time this well. I think there's a Team Canada game going on. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe we'll keep everyone updated on the score as we go through the webinar. So we're super excited to have you guys today. We're just going to give everyone a second. I'll do a little bit of housekeeping and then we'll get started. First of all, just welcome everybody. This is our first Level Up out of office, even though we're in the office today, event of 2026. We did it as a virtual kickoff, and we're excited to bring on an amazing partner that we're working with, Optiv, and we're going to have the team from Optiv come on here in a minute to chat a little bit about who they are, what they do, and then we have John speaking. He's going to give you guys an amazing presentation and obviously have a little bit of discussion on AI. So from our experience, just so you know, this is, like I said, our idea is to launch a AI leadership series that we'll be hosting every month. So we'll be talking about our first in-person event as well that we'll launch. We're excited to have that ready to go for next month. But this one here, we're going to talk a little bit more about the reason why we're kicking off leadership or an AI leadership and Level Up is the fact that we've had discussions around tools a lot the last couple of years. It's been a real focus. And from our perspective now, what we want to look at is we want to make sure that businesses have a proper strategy in place before they're implementing tools into their business. And layered into that is making sure that you're covering all your security risks that you might have as a company. As you introduce new tools, AI tools within your organization, you need to be very aware of what people are putting into large language models and where they're putting this information, where they're accessing it from. So that's where we're excited to work with the team at Optiv to bring that knowledge to our market and how they work with clients in that space. Okay, so once we're done our virtual event today, we're going to be kicking off in-person events, and I love in-person events. I like it way more than talking to a video screen, I have to be honest. So, but they're going to be small, curated in-person events. If anyone was part of our Level Up AI week last week, similar, where we actually crammed in a week worth of stuff every day. We're going to spread it out once a month. The first one, we're super excited that Wednesday, March 11th at 5:30 p.m. at Sandhill Winery. We'll be launching details, I believe, today for registration, or it might even launch yesterday, to be honest. So we have a key. Maybe we'll put the registration in the chat as well so people can register if you're interested. We have Lena Dabbitt, who's the executive director at Optiv. She has over 30 years of leadership experience in the RCMP. If you haven't seen Lena speak, I would ask you to go and just search on YouTube and find some of her talks, and they're absolutely amazing. Like, you guys don't want to miss this, trust me. She's going to talk about leadership with AI, talk about risk, responsibility, and real world decisions. It's only $15 to come to it, and it includes a drink. So, and the reason we can charge only $15, including a drink, is because of our amazing partnership with Optiv that's helping us put these together. Okay, so before we get into the content, though, I'll be quiet. I said I have about 5 minutes to launch this, so I'm at 9:04. I want to introduce our partner that's helping us bring this to life. Okay, so we can't do these things without our partner. So we're super excited to have Optiv join us in this series. I'd like to bring on Alex. I think he's waiting somewhere to come on virtually. So Alex will be coming on here in a second to join me and give a little bit of a discussion on, there's Alex. I can see his name. So he's going to give us a little bit of an overview of who Optiv is. But hey, Alex, good morning.
Good morning, Rob. I'm super excited. This is amazing. Thank you for allowing us to be here today.
You have Team Canada going on another screen?
I can't believe the timing. We should have looked at the schedule before we booked this for sure.
All good. So Alex and I met when we did our AI Level Up week. He came to one of our events. And we found we had some mutual connections, and we started chatting at the event, and we stayed connected, and one thing led to another, and Alex was looking for ways to get involved in the community and bring in the Optiv brand into the community. And I said, hey, I have an idea. Why don't we? So, we talked to the team and it came together pretty seamlessly. So, Alex, like, first of all, thank you so much to, yourself and your team. That's been awesome of Optiv to work with. So, thank you for coming on board and helping us bring these to life.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rob. No, I really appreciate it. Honestly, the work you're doing in the community, I can't say enough. Like, nobody else is doing what you're doing for the community itself and in broader BC to really articulate, how to use AI tools and really how to implement it in your business and what kind of ideas you can have. And it's really good. It's a breath of fresh air. And when I went to that event, when I did meet you, it was so incredible. I met so many people that were enthusiastic, and some of the presenters were just a thrill to watch. So, thank you for doing this with us. So, yeah, I'll give. I guess I'll just let you guys know who Optiv is. So, Optiv is a cyber advisory and solutions leader across North America. We have worked with over 6,000 organizations. And we have over 2,000 experts that we can leverage that are purely focused on cybersecurity. We have over 450 partners that we can work with to deliver any solution that anybody needs. And our work spans through thought leadership, consulting, technology integrations, and all areas in between. So, I really like our organizations that we've worked with in the past. We work with every organization, but financial services, healthcare, retail, technology companies, government, education. And really, we have like deep collaborations, and best in class solutions. And when it comes to AI focused solutions, we've partnered even with Google Cloud to really, enhance our AI footprints. So it's, we're really a leader when it comes to cybersecurity. And that's why, partnering with Check Creative and doing this out of office series is going to be great. So, and I think, when I look at like cybersecurity in general, it's exploding. We had a lot of time when the internet came out and when we had networking and we had email and the first YouTube videos. We had a lot of time to adapt in terms of security. Well, AI, honestly, for me, and maybe Rob, you have a different opinion about this, but AI, I didn't even hear about it 2 years ago, right? Yeah. Before 2 years ago, I didn't even know what it was. AI was something that Elon Musk was talking about that's going to take us over or something, and now all of a sudden AI came here with full force, and I see leaders across the country, and especially, even going to one of your events, they're looking at how do they implement this, right? For obvious reasons, right? We look at, the efficiencies that it creates within a workplace. You look at, all the different, cost savings that you can get through AI, right? And then you can like focus your business on high value work, right? Like the things that you don't need to do, on a daily basis. I can remember the days where, you build a presentation out and you're literally researching for days, right? Yeah. You're going to this one website, this other website, and you're just tackling it all and just trying to get all this. Now I just go onto one of the LLMs, ask it to do research on, X, Y, and Z, and boom, you have all your research done. And now you can focus on what really matters. So I understand, leadership is scrambling, but at Optiv, we want to help organizations really, adopt AI. But the way we think about it is it's not about just implementing AI. What we need to frame it in a different way. And my framing and how Optiv frames it is secure AI. So when you add AI into any type of situation, you have an opportunity to increase the attack vectors, right? So whether it be your information going into an LLM that's owned by an AI organization, right? So whether that's ChatGPT or you got Copilot or Gemini, etc. it's getting into the LLM. That's your personal information. If you're putting your financial information in, or any other private information, whether it's government identification, so on and so forth. And then inversely, you have opportunities where you have agents on your systems, right?
Right.
So
Right.
these automation tools that are coming out, we need to treat them like an identity themselves, right? Like
Fair
they're
enough.
right. And so, how we think about it at Optiv is secure AI. And that's what I think the whole series that we've planned and what we want to try to achieve here as we move forward on these monthly events, I think is really pushing that message, right? It shouldn't just be AI, it should be secure AI, because that framework on helping you, keep things secure, as you move forward with AI. And I know there's pressures, right? Because, leadership teams are now adopting it because of, like the various reasons, to save some money and,
Yeah.
increase operational efficiencies and, things like that. But, we really want to hammer that home. So it's really, important to us. And, I think your preamble at the beginning in terms of why this partnership made sense is great. I think really, when I look at, your organization, Chick Creative, this out of office series and what you guys do in terms of, consulting, assessments, helping organizations adopt AI. Really, it's like a dynamic duo of sorts, right? You have Optiv and then you help organizations, secure AI. It's kind of like a perfect marriage. So, I want to thank you again, Rob, and I'm super excited for what's to come.
It's awesome. So I did notice before that someone's saying my background's flipped. So I'll try to get it fixed before, but we thought we had a test. But it's
Is
interesting.
mine okay? Sorry, is
Yours
mine
is
okay?
good. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Someone said mine is flipped. So we'll try to get it fixed. But
Okay.
one of the things that was interesting you said is that how, AI wasn't here a couple years ago. I actually was speaking at a couple events yesterday, and I have a slide where I asked people, do you know when ChatGPT came to market? ChatGPT's been around for a long time, but in the iteration it came out in November of 2022. So it's only 3 years old. So if you think about in the amount of, they were the fastest technology ever. They get to 100 million users. It took Netflix 18 years to get 100 million users. It took OpenAI with ChatGPT 2 months. And now there are 850 million users. So it's coming. I always say it's not coming, it's here. We're not talking about future state. We're talking about here. So when we started talking, what was important to me is that businesses don't start doing things without having a plan in place. Because if you don't use these tools, because they are tools, if you don't use them properly, there are some downsides to them. If you're not secure, if you're putting customer data into it. So I'm not trying to scare people. It's not the tactic. It's more of like, this is why we're bringing this series, is have those discussions. Reach out to Alex and the team at Optiv. If you have questions about, well, we're thinking about implementing AI, how does it affect our infrastructure when it comes to our servers, our data, or even like all these things that maybe as a small business owner as well, or even a medium or large size, you don't think about. Here's a cool tool, I'm going to start using it, but you don't think about what could happen, right? So I think I'm excited about starting to have those conversations in our market on this series, and no better company to do it with than you guys. So it's exciting. I think it's a really good marriage for sure.
Awesome. I appreciate that, yeah, and I think so as well.
So now we're going to bring on, now that Alex has come and done his thing, and I think we'll bring Alex. Alex will come back on at the end maybe. So we're going to bring John on from Optiv. But before I do that, what I wanted chat a little bit about is just maybe just give John a few minutes to get ready. I'm going to ask Alex a few questions. But if anyone has any questions that they have from the audience, throw them in chat. There's also a Q&A function at the bottom. So we'll make sure we're monitoring that throughout, because when John comes on in about 5-10 minutes, you'll have questions, I'm sure, from John's amazing presentation. So please drop them in there. We'll moderate it. I'll bring the questions back to John or Alex or myself at the end of the conversation. But so I'm curious, Alex, as John just kind of gets ready, we'll give him sort of the 5-minute warning to get ready. Is that where do you feel like there's so much going on with AI and there's always new technology? Where do you guys feel is like the most pressure with leadership when it comes to AI right now? Like, because as a leader, I believe this stuff has to be top down, right? Like you can't, it can't be the other way around when you're implementing a tool or a system really of like AI. Where do you find that, like, what are what are leaders feeling right now?
I think there is a lot, I think they're feeling a lot of pressure, in general and how to, implement AI. And I think, there's different types of AI, right? We always think of like
Right.
these chat
ChatGPT,
GPT,
correct.
LLMs, but
Mm.
really in reality, you've got these agents on the back end, tools that, make, your background processes more efficient, right? So
Right.
instead of a human doing, little value work, I call it, from doing, taking some information from one system to another system. Now you got an agent doing that for you, right? And
Right.
it's automated. It can think for you. It has some machine learning, has AI elements into it, and so it really increases that. So I think what they're doing is trying to evaluate right now where are the opportunities, right? Within the business where they can create efficiencies, and that's where the pressures are. And so you see a lot of, items where, or like leaders, focused in on, the back end teams, from an operational perspective quite a bit. But even like when you think of marketing and sales, how much, I think I went to one of your events and you guys have, some great platforms that you guys are using for marketing, and it made things more efficient from that perspective. So they're trying to implement it from a sales perspective as well. So it's really the whole value chain of every organization. So the pressure is like, how do they implement it? How do they implement it properly? And how do they, reorganize the organizations, in terms of staff to really focus on that high value work? That's how I see it. And when I'm interacting with leaders, that's the problem. And they don't want to execute and do it wrong either, right? They want to do it right the first time. And I
Right.
think with Optiv, we can definitely help that secure element to that, but there's a larger strategy at play. And I think John in his presentation is going to show you, what that kind of strategy looks like.
I'm curious, what are you finding for adoption, like in our market? Like, because I've been doing this for a few years now, talking about AI, and at the start, I get it. It's the shiny thing, and everyone's playing around with it and doing, asking it their, health stuff and what they should make for dinner. But there's a real pure business application to these tools and these systems. What are you finding adoption? Do you find businesses in our market are adopting to AI? Do you find that they're scared or hesitant to adopt to AI? Like I'm finding the adoption rate is fairly low, other than people. If I'm in a room and say, "Do you have you used AI?" Most of them put up their hand. If I say I've used ChatGPT, most of them leave up their hand. And then most of them said, if you use anything outside of ChatGPT, oh, all the hands go down. There's a couple that stay up, right? So, are you finding that as well when we talk about AI, people are relating it, like you said, to a large language model, but there's way more to it. But are you finding the same thing in the space that you guys are playing in?
Well, it's funny. I think the tools in that people are using are adopting AI. So when I say that, like a lot of the tools that are, being released, whether it's, a CRM tool or whether it be, a back end, financial tool or things like that, they are now implementing AI within the tool sets and in the upgrades and updates and things like that. So it's not about like entering AI in a specific way to like, marry, say marry, but like interoperate
Yeah.
with each
Yeah.
other, right?
Yeah.
The tools themselves that they are currently using are updating with AI in it. And the AI adds additional elements within them, right? To
Right.
create efficiencies of using those tools. Now, there is other opportunities, and I think you're right, in terms of the adoption of outside tool sets from an LLM perspective,
Yeah.
right? When we look at, workplaces, just to reiterate, we see, you know, adoption of Copilot within,
Oh, yeah.
their
Yeah.
Microsoft environment quite
Right.
often, right? And so, businesses are, utilizing governance and policies to set that up so that, at least the staff and our understanding of, what to put into it and what not. And there is different elements in terms of like, security that you can get with that. But I think the broader piece where it's not part of a tool set and how to implement that, that's a bigger struggle. And that the strategy I think John is going to show you, I think it shows you sort of a map on how to do that, but it's just a very high level how to do it securely, right? But I think that is the element, you're right, that I think is people are struggling to get by and trying to understand how to implement something that's creating more efficiencies for their organization. So
It's funny you say that because I think people don't know that you brought up such a valid point that a lot of the tools that you're already using, a Salesforce has so much AI already built into it and lots and more. And when we did AI, I love this story because I tell it all the time. When we did AI level up the week, out of office week, we promoted it, put it on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. So you promote it. And the very first comment, one of the very first comments on our Instagram account was, "We do not want AI in Kelowna." Like literally, quote for quote. That's like an actual quote. And I jokingly thought, well, I'm going to go build a wall and just keep it out, right? But I think people don't know that how much is already in all these tools you use, like, and even day to day, if you use Netflix, if you use like any tool you use has AI built into it. So you need to realize that it's already there, and you need to know how it's affecting all your other areas, right? So, last question, and then we'll bring John on because I told him we 9:20, so we're a couple minutes late. But I'm curious, Alex. I always love this from a question for you. Is I think people like to work with people they like. I'm a big believer in that. Even though AI is coming, I think it's about relationships. It's about us doing this stuff, being in community, talking. And I know that's one way that you build your business, and Optiv builds their business. It's about humans as well. What do you love? What do you love about what you do? Like I know your background. We don't have to get into that, but you're with Optiv. I see you have passion for what you do. You're excited to talk about this stuff. Where's the drive for you? Where do you see what's your why for what you're doing and working with the team and with you guys at Optiv?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's kind of a long time running. As a little kid, I used to be kind of a little, mischief hacker of sorts, and always the security elements, of computers and IT and networking were really passionate of mine. Like it was a passion from a young age, and so it sort of fits, and it kind of like it's not a job. It's
Right.
it's really my passion. Like I love doing this, and I love helping organizations achieve their goals, right? And securely, right? So this is just I don't even to be honest, I don't even feel like it is a job sometimes. I feel like it's a passion piece. So I'm very lucky. So that's my answer to that. It's just yeah, I love, just understanding, where the business problems are, how we can help, how we can keep them secure, and look at, new technologies and new ways of doing things. Because when we think of security, everybody thinks like they really think it's like it's just like an added cost
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
organization,
For
but that's
sure.
not true. There's so many elements of security where it actually reduces the ROI, right? Like, I mean, like so
100%.
you get an ROI out of the security because, whether it be data security, whether it be, identity management, whether, there's a whole slew of different, domains that we work with that actually create efficiencies within your organization.
Yeah. 100%.
And so people forget about that and they think, oh, security is just going to cost me money. No, it's actually a benefit to your business.
Interesting. Yeah. So I think that our our businesses and our market need to just start having these conversations. So I think that from our perspective, I think that's why we want to bring this stuff to the market and be able to make sure that we're having these discussions. So we're going to go a little bit deeper now. So I'm going to bring on someone who spends a lot of time working with organizations within Optiv and so forth when it comes to making these decisions in the real world. So we're going to bring in John Weatherby, who's a client solution advisor at Optiv, to do about a 10-15 minute talk on Alex went by. So bye, Alex. He'll come back. So we're going to do a 15-minute talk or 10 to 15-minute talk presentation that he has, and then I'll come back on fix my background because I feel like I was told it's still not working. We'll fix my background. And then we'll bring John on to do his presentation. Where's John? There, he's coming on now. I think he's coming on. And then again, just like I said before, if you have any questions as John's doing his presentations, pop them into chat. We'll monitor that. We'll come back in, 10, 15 minutes or so when John's done, and we'll ask him about, we'll grill him a bunch of questions. We'll make him work this morning. So, hey, John, how's it going?
Good, good. All
Awesome.
right.
So you're ready to do
I
your
will.
presentation?
Yeah, I will. Maybe I'm just having a little bit of connectivity here. I'm going to drop off a video while I present my screen.
Oh, good.
And then, yeah, I'll
Yeah,
jump
cool.
back on. There we go. I hope everyone can hear me okay and they can see that. So I just want to thank everyone for joining. I know there is a Team Canada hockey game going on, and at last check, it was 2-0 for Canada. So good start to the day. I wanted to walk everyone through the reality of AI and security today, where AI is genuinely creating value and where it's introducing new and unfortunately often hidden risks, and why so many organizations are approaching this backwards, and where leaders should truly be focusing their time this year. So we'll cut through some of the noise, and hopefully everyone will leave a little more confident making those strategic decisions around AI security and governance. So, yeah, I mean, look, we talked about AI a little bit, Rob and Alex. AI is not inherently good or bad, right? It's another tool in our toolbox, but it definitely has powerful and expansive reach across our environments. And that's where the real risk is coming from. It creates both risk and opportunity for our business. So let's break it down. Opportunity, there's real opportunity, and we talked about productivity acceleration, and this is by far the largest use case, and the majority of conversations that I have with customers today around AI tooling. So we can automate low value and repetitive tasks such as content rewriting, summarizing, searching text, brand templating, and by doing that, we free up our time and our resources for higher impact work. And it allows us to often produce a higher quality output for that low-hanging fruit. However, this is where we often see shadow AI introduced. And this is where most people dip their toes into AI, right? You have ChatGPT, Gemini, Copilot. So when employees are rolling out these tools on their own and not doing it through the organization, it leaves you without authorization to do so or the guardrails in place to protect you. Decision enhancements, businesses leverage stronger forecasting and better data analysis across many industries, and that includes security. In security, we're seeing AI augmented modules. Alex touched on it, but almost all tooling from our EDRs like CrowdStrike or SentinelOne to SIMs like Google SecOps, they're leveraging AI that can detect anomalies, correlate patterns. We've had user behavior analytics for years, but they can also analyze data sets and risks associated to the business faster than any human team ever could. Innovation velocity across all industries, right? AI is drastically cutting time to value. What used to take weeks or months, prototyping, coding, scenario modeling, can be done in days. And customer experience uplift, right? Everyone on this call has seen this. We have hyper personalization at scale, intelligent support systems that are, raising expectations for faster and more tailored customer engagement. And we see this every day, targeted marketing on our social media, all the way to custom support chatbots at car dealerships, right? Where we can ask to compare models or pricing, right? Now, all of the good things come with risk. Shadow AI adoption, right? As I mentioned, teams are quietly adopting unsanctioned tools, right? And when they do this, it comes with a governance or guardrails. It could unintentionally expose sensitive data or increase risk through agent identities that Alex touched on, or RBAC controls that are not secured and in place. We see these a lot with corporate devices and where companies don't have an acceptable AI use policy, right? Employees are already starting to download tools on their own, right? If we sit in a boardroom and ask staff how many people have tried ChatGPT, have tried Gemini on personal or corporate devices. We're seeing more and more hands go up. Model drift and reliability issues, right? AI outputs can degrade over time without proper care and feeding of those LLMs. And without monitoring them or correcting, we can create blind spots, and there's potential for unreliable or incorrect outputs. And with incorrect outputs, it completely negates the benefits of AI in the first place. Amplified security gaps. I think Alex touched on this as well. AI, as with any tool, expands our attack surface. It's another foothold or another open door in our proverbial house, right? Includes model injection. We have prompt manipulation, data poisoning, and these are real world threats that we're seeing exploited in the wild today. Regulatory exposure. For certain industries, we see this more and more. Financial sector for sure is always there. The health, public health systems as well. And there's rapidly evolving requirements. We have AI governance and transparency, cybersecurity mandates, increasing compliance and the complexity around that. It's happening faster than any organization saw coming, and they're going to struggle to keep up with. We have, EU has the AI laws in place. We have NIST AI frameworks coming in. OSFI is getting involved more and more. So those regulations are going to keep coming and keep evolving over time. And I'd say the last real large risk that we see is a barrier to entry for threat actors. Just as we are using AI to make our lives easier, so are the bad guys, right? Threat actors are using AI to write exploits. They're analyzing your attack surface, and they can escalate at speeds we've never seen before. There's such a low barrier to entry than there previously was. Historically, threat actors, effective ones, needed to have skill sets in programming, in writing their own code, and that can be replaced today through AI. And the ones who still have those tool sets can augment with AI. So it's absolutely transformative. More and more businesses and their teams are able to leverage these types of opportunities. But the ones who aren't are pushing for those capabilities. So we need to approach AI security intentionally. And that kind of brings us to the biggest challenge that we're seeing right now. And this is one of the most common patterns that we've observed. Organizations are leading with tools because it feels like progress. So why are so many organizations jumping straight to tools before they're clear on their strategy? The number one reason I see when I speak to customers is pressure from leadership. Executives want to, quote, do something with AI. We just explored so many of the benefits and the things that we can do with AI. This leads security teams to chase demos and tools. But what they're not doing is they're not clarifying what business problem they're trying to solve. So if we don't have a clear use case and a clear strategy before adopting these tools, we're just introducing the risks that comes along with them without properly evaluating. Vendor noise and hype. Every vendor has a tool, and there's an extraordinary external market pressure today that suggests buying a tool equals maturity. We've seen this for ages in security. Everyone has the next security silver bullet. And, practitioners, we know this doesn't exist. It leads to tool sprawl rather than actual capability building within your company. We have lots of our customers left with a shelfware where they have a license to pay for and not much else. We have misunderstanding AI as a technology implementation. AI is not just a technology project. At its core, it's a technology, of course, but it needs to be an operating model within the organization. And what's not commonly considered a lot of times is that overreaching into the environment where it touches your governance, identity, your data quality and security, risk, change management, workforce enablement, right? It reaches so far into the business that this shortage of understanding has led us to a lack of internal alignment. And when data, IT, security, and business stakeholders aren't coordinated in our efforts, investments become fragmented or duplicated, oftentimes resulting in poorly rolled out agents or LLMs, and they end up sporadically used across teams and not across the organization. We need a common alignment across all teams across the business. And what drives it primarily is the desire for quick wins. This is causing organizations to skip the foundational elements. So from the beginning of AI adoption, we need to focus on responsible use guidelines, data readiness, RBAC and user access considerations, as well as potential frameworks. We need to do that in favor of getting a pilot out the door quickly. What I tell my customers is we need to solve actual business problems securely. Too often we're trying to fit a tool into a use case. So the lack of alignment and clarity really hasn't gone unnoticed, and we are seeing a leadership shift, and I would say leadership expectations are starting to evolve. Boards are now expecting explainability and accountability. Efficiency is not enough anymore. We know that a properly implemented AI tool is going to increase efficiency. Leaders want visibility into how these decisions are made and who's accountable, right? We're seeing more and more repercussions for CISOs at companies and new laws coming into place. Accountability is paramount to that. We're seeing security leaders that are being pulled into AI discussions and road mapping earlier, which is great, right? That's what we want to see. The organizations are starting to realize that security controls, access, and data protection frameworks need to be defined as close to a rollout as possible. And we're trying to do that not after the fact. There are scenarios where enterprise tooling has security capabilities built in, but we need that governance, right? And that governance is, starting to shift left. We're moving from compliance after deployment into more of a governance by design. It's not universal. It's not yet all the way there, but we are trending in the right direction. Slowly and surely, we're going to win that battle. And this isn't new to security practitioners at all, right? We've been having these conversations since day one. Leaders are demanding clearer ROIs. They don't want generic productivity claims anymore. They want actual impact. They want to see cost reduction, revenue uplift, risk reduction, cycle time improvement, right? And risk reduction is a big one. Not only do we need to demonstrate that we're using AI responsibly with as little or acceptable risk, right? We see the GRC people, we hear them. We need to be able to leverage it in our own tool sets as well, because we are protecting the corporation, the companies that we're working for, through security with risk reduction. So this is where AI security tooling comes into play as well. Transparency from the top down, the tone from the top now is including more and more transparency. That is with their employees, it's with their clients, and it's around how AI is used and safeguarded. So it's being driven in part through new frameworks, I would say, as well as compliance requirements. So even into third-party risk management questionnaires, if anyone's had to deal with those, more and more TPRM conversations are happening around how is AI being used within your business, what capacity, and they expect transparency. In fact, I'm taking this call from Ontario where I live. We have laws mandating AI disclosure in job listings now. Every job listed in Ontario requires clear and concise language around, is AI part of the decision making? Is it part of the filtering process? And more of this transparency is going to be demanded from customers and from partners. So with all this change, where should leaders actually be focusing their time this year, and what can they safely ignore? I would focus, the main driver for me as a security leader would be defining a clear AI strategy that's tied to business value. We don't need to go use case hunting. We don't need to try to fit that square peg into a round hole, then that's typically what I see a lot of people trying to do when they're securing AI. They're looking to purchase a tool and make their use case fits. We don't want to use case hunt. We want business outcome hunting. What pain point are we trying to solve? What are we trying to solution for? And build our security controls on top of that. Establishing a practical governance, policies, risk assessments, model monitoring, right? These consistent controls are required, but practical governance should prevail. We need to operate at the speed that our business allows within an acceptable risk profile. The risk profile, the funding, the headcount for a bank is going to be vastly different than, say, a startup. So we need to do this, as a practical governance tool that should learn and grow. Governance should never remain static just because this is how the business operates today. We do need to improve data quality and access, right? Since poor data undermines every AI initiative that we have, AI can only be as good as the data beneath it. So data readiness is often a hidden blocker for us. Weak data discovery and classification can be an issue. If we don't know where our data lives, we don't know who has access to our data. We're not always talking about feeding data into an LLM, for example, but this data will be recalled. This data will be put into your models. This data will be retrieved. It will be searched upon. And if we don't have proper access controls, you're going to have people accessing data that they should not have access to, right? We need to build cross-functional alignment where business, data, IT teams, and security stakeholders plan together instead of independently in silos. I mentioned this when we see it roll, it leads to poor rollouts, right? We have fractured deployments that either don't work properly or are scattered across the organization. And kind of generically securing the AI ecosystem. And that's what we're talking about today. We need to focus on model securities, identity controls, data protection, continuous monitoring, and the earlier the better. These are daunting tasks, but as I mentioned, if we do them in a practical governance method that meets our business where it's at, we're going to be off and running towards our journey of securing AI much quicker. What can we ignore, right? Buying every new AI tool on the market, most of them overlap, many of them don't scale, and there are a lot of them that simply exist to solve niche problems that many of our organizations don't face, right? We need to stop trying to build everything in-house. There are plenty of platforms and managed services. They've all matured significantly over the years. I would use them to accelerate instead of reinventing the wheel. Do as much as you can in-house. Leverage frameworks that have already been, proven by peers and that are open source. NIST or ISO would be a good start. We need to stop perfecting governance before we start, right? Because as we've all heard, perfection is the enemy of progress. So governance today does not have to equal governance tomorrow, right? We need to evolve our governance with our usage and adoption, but don't delay the pilots. We don't want to miss out on all of the opportunity because we're chasing a perfect governance model, right? It doesn't exist today. It probably won't exist tomorrow. But as long as we're willing to continuously update, we'll be secure. Chasing unaligned use cases. I think I mentioned this earlier, but if we don't tie it to business outcomes or it doesn't solve a real pain point for the organization, skip on it completely. We don't need to accept risk for another tool if it's not solving a real business need. So, I would think in closing, AI is going to unlock enormous value for all of us, right? Time, there's a huge ROI, but for organizations that approach it with clarity, discipline, and strong governance, if we focus on strategy, alignment, and the data and security controls, you're going to be positioned not only to just adopt AI, but operationalize it safely and at scale. The way that we do this Adoptive is sort of this triangle in the middle here. And we start by classifying our controls into one of four phases, right? We launch AI, we build AI foundations, implement AI securely, and that leads to operationalizing secure AI. I'll throw this up. This is a slide that we use internally and externally with our customers, and it tends to resonate very well. This is a sample roadmap, kind of a Gantt chart format, but it's towards operationalizing secure AI. So you can see how each step refers to the phase below. Launching secure AI, we have a lot of assessments and discovery going on in those dark blue. Then we move to building our AI foundation. There's a lot of governance and framework build out in that phase in the orange. And then we start to implement our AI security, right? And that's going to come with the guardrails and the best practices. So I like this slide because it shows something tangible. It's a great guidance tool. Not every company is going to do each one of these things, nor are they going to do it in that exact formation, but it hopefully provides some ideas to provoke some thought in how it may, help secure your AI journey as well. So I'm going to maybe pass this back to Rob and go back on camera here. And that was basically the sum of my presentation.
That was great. Thank you, John. That's amazing. I'm disappointed that you didn't say there's a easy button that you just push and it fixes all our issues with AI.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it doesn't exist, it sounds like. So if there's any questions, please do pop them in chat. If not, I'll just, we're going to try to get everyone out. We said 10 or 10:30. We're going to try to get everyone out of here by 10 a.m. I know everyone's busy, but please do, if there's questions, pop them in chat and I'll make sure I pick them up. But John, thank you for that. That was excellent. But I'm curious, like, from a leader, because part of the series is, like I said, we're trying to connect with leaders, and a leader has many definitions, but I say leaders that are working on maybe bringing AI into their organization. Like, what's one assumption that leaders often have about AI that you think needs to be challenged? Is there, like you've talked about, like this is probably our first time we've talked to really brought this discussion around AI and security or secure AI into the market from our perspective. So is there assumptions out there that leaders have that we need to challenge when it comes to when they're looking at, and I love how you frame that. I smiled if I was on camera when you said, stop trying to build this stuff in house. There's tools out there that do it. But what's one thing? I know there's maybe, what's one assumption you think that maybe we can challenge?
I would say a lot of leadership views AI as a technology problem, right? And yes, it is a technology problem, but it's not solely a technology problem, right? We need to think of the people side of things as well, the decision making, right? So AI, first and foremost, is going to be a decision making and operating model.
Right.
And who's allowed to use it? What data is it going to be able to touch? How are the outputs going to be acted upon, right? And when things go wrong or those models start to hallucinate or they're not providing the output, who's responsible and who's going to work on that? So we need to decide the people side of things as well, right? Having a tool solve all of our problems and alleviate all the stress and allow us more efficiency is great. But how do we get to that without just blindly giving access to everyone and everything to the tooling?
Interesting. I'm also thinking as you're talking there that as our organizations get bigger, we try not to work in silos. A smaller firm, maybe if you have 1 or 2 people, 3, 4 people, it's a little bit different. But how do you work with companies where you have to work across different departments and you have to work across different silos to make sure what you just said doesn't happen? Like, how do you, I just think as you get into more of a larger companies that have a sales department, an HR department, whatever, like on and on and on, like, how do you work? How do you bring that all together? Like without, I'm sure you would have to talk next hour about that, but just highlight, like, how do you bring that to make sure there's consistency around all the layers of an organization when it comes so you don't find that Rob's working on one tool and Alexa's working on a different tool and Nikki like how do you bring that all together?
I think the key is, executive buy-in from the start, right? If we speak to, well, bad example would be security directors, right? They generally aren't looking to purchase the tool.
No.
Maybe a CTO or an IT director is looking to purchase the tool. We need executive buy-in, I would say now, while the tools are here, like you said, they're here. We need that executive buy-in now, and we need that buy-in to be, we are going to adopt AI securely. And I would suggest once we have that buy-in, we take it a step further. Maybe we build a committee of AI professionals, right? We have an AI committee, an AI task force, and we need to involve all of the groups. Historically, in security, we've been challenged with, you guys are difficult to work with. You guys limit our productivity, right?
Yeah.
And people see the negative side of it until a breach or something bad happens. But you have that pushback. So if everyone is on the same page across the organization, across those leading units that are going to be wanting the tooling, I think it brings everyone into the picture as a stakeholder.
Interesting. And I think I've heard the term responsible AI adoption a few times over the last few months. And like, what does that look like outside of just having some policy documents? And that's one thing that I've been finding a lot of people don't have policies around AI use. We have policies around social media use and all this sort of thing. And, are we allowed to bring our pets to work or not? But we don't have a policy around one of the biggest tools and most disruptive tools or softwares we've seen. So like, what does responsible AI adoption actually look like when we hear that term? And maybe it's not a one size fits all, but what does that actually mean for an organization?
Right. I would say responsible AI adoption is not just bringing in the tool, right? We need to embed it. We worked for years, for decades on, security, risk, our change management processes. So we have a lot of these tools in place today. And, if we want to boil it right down, AI is just another tool, right? So we need to integrate it into our systems today. So to me, that's the responsible part of AI adoption is put it in our internal frameworks, our business frameworks. We need to have clear human in the loop decisions. We can't leave everything to AI. And like I said, if and when things do go south, what does that escalation path look like? And what's that fail safe or the failover?
So where does your guys' role come into there? Because do you get involved on some of those discussions you're having right now with leaders, or do you kind of come in at the end? Like, I'm curious how when you engage, so you're going to engage an organization, and I know you showed that chart, which was pretty cool to see sort of the path, but let's go to the start maybe. Like, how do you actually first engage with a company to make sure that they fit the framework so there's going to be success when they're actually implementing AI? Like, how deep do you guys go, and how do you direct sort of if you find that there's a void within organization or leadership alignment, do you tackle that, or do you just point it out and go get that aligned and come back to us?
Yeah, I'd say we more on the advisory side.
Okay.
Of that conversation, right? If there's not internal alignment, we can, right, make the suggestion to have that committee. We can make a suggestion of who the key stakeholders are, and kind of leave it there. Another way we can bridge that gap, and we've done this before, is through maybe workshops, and we'll do executive level workshopping so that people understand this isn't just a technology play. There is a security component. We don't like to sell security to people as, all these bad things are going to happen, right? The fear mongering part, but really explaining how they can happen, I think is the important part. This is the great side of what the tool can do. And here is what can happen if we don't, mold this for our company and our level of risk.
Interesting. So it's nice to hear that you guys are, well, because I love that even you said about striking up a committee. I never thought of that. That's like one takeaway from today. I thought it's really neat, people that are listening, even just taking that and saying, okay, because you're drinking from a fire hose. Like I'm in this all day and I can't even keep up. So imagine organizations that are hearing things and they hear about, Claude Opus, and all of a sudden there's this agent that's going to fix your life. And I'm like, well, it's not that easy, right? And then what happens? So part of all this sort of stuff, like I love that idea of just having leaders when the organization, if you call it an AI committee, that look and they help sort of drive that. That's a great takeaway. Just that to me was worth the talk, because I think that's a really tangible takeaway for any organization to do. Like,
Yeah, I think one other place we see a lot of success is, and I think you asked the question, where do you guys jump in? Where do you help customers? And the answer is really kind of all over. I've got large companies that say, I have Copilot, I have Gemini, I have ChatGPT. We've let everyone have access to them. What do I do now? Right. So and that's one end of the spectrum, all the way up into more mature, you know, agentic AI conversations around, what are we allowing these things to decide and what do they have access to change? And then sort of everything in between. But one interesting conversation I've had a few times is around shadow AI, right? Like we said, you put 100 of your staff in a room. The answer isn't zero when we say how many people have tried these tools, right? And likely on corporate devices. So we have tooling now where we can look at shadow AI usage. We can install, sensors on your network, and we can see what tools people are using. And from a security part, that's great, right? It's what you want, it's what you expect.
yeah.
The interesting thing I have seen come out of that is, maybe ChatGPT, Rob, is your favorite, and you've been using ChatGPT, and we're thinking about rolling that out because, you're the head of IT and you love ChatGPT. But what if 80% of your shadow AI use was Gemini? Maybe we should be looking at Gemini because this is what people are going to be using. And if this is unanimously what people like within the organization, they're going to find a way to use it. Maybe we should be putting our controls around that and adopting that instead of ChatGPT or whatever model.
Yeah, yeah, whatever. Yeah. Interesting. There's a question that just came through chat that I want to make sure we get. I know we're kind of close to time, but the question is, if one is using a tool like M365 Copilot off the shelf with enterprise data protection on, how secure is that really?
Do we have people from Microsoft on here? Are we, no, so I would break it down as pretty secure, right? We have the enterprise type tools. If I'm downloading ChatGPT or DeepSeek or whatever I'm downloading on my phone isn't the same as what I'm procuring through Microsoft, through Copilot. So I would say Copilot is going to be pretty good. It has built-in security controls, but the underlying controls are what is going to be of a concern to me. So if you're using, if we're talking the Microsoft stack, if we're talking purview and data classification, and your RBAC controls are good through your Azure or Active Directory, then you're probably doing really well. If you're rolling out Copilot and it can do all of these wonderful things for you, and Rob's sitting in finance and has access to things he shouldn't, and I don't, and he's sending them to me, now I have access to what's in finance. So I think really the salesy answer is it depends. And it's going to depend on, I would say data is probably my biggest concern, and RBAC and identity controls would be secondary only because I find more companies have a handle on user permissions better than they do data.
Right. Interesting. That's a great question, because I know that we have some clients that are in that, I find professional services, law firms, accounting firms are typically within the Microsoft space. And the question always asks, how secure is it? I'm like, well, I think I'm not expert. I think it's more secure than, downloading DeepSeek. But I mean, is everything locked down? I would say that not. But I know we're almost at 10 o'clock, and I know we kind of said 10, but I was hoping we get everyone out sort of 10-ish. I do have one last question for you, John, and then maybe we'll wrap up. And if there's other questions, please pop it in. If not, we'll let everyone out of school early today. If there's one mindset that you could one mindset shift that leaders could do maybe this year when it comes to AI, what would it be? What's one thing that your wish would be that people in a leader in this space within in the organization, what's one mind shift you would wish for?
Hmm. I it, I think I almost go back to our first question. I think it was let's stop thinking about AI as just a capability, and we need to really recognize that it's an ongoing risk exposure, and it needs to be managed as such. And when we deploy most tools, we can set up a guardrail and we
Right.
can walk away and it's in place. With AI, because it's ever learning, it's ever reaching across our environments, the more data we use it for, the better it gets. We really need to treat it as an ongoing risk. So, that governance part I talked about a little bit, we need to evolve governance as we adopt more AI. I think that's where we need to live, is that this is here, we're using it, we're going to leverage it, but we need to continuously feed and care for it and make sure that that risk exposure doesn't increase to where it is today.
Love it. Well, John, thank you so much for the great presentation, to talk all the questions that we drilled you on. I think from my perspective, sort of I leave is that, think about, I'm always strategy guy first. So don't jump to the tools necessarily, understand sort of where your goals are when it comes to AI and automation, and secure thoughtful adoption is better than being fast and being the first one. It really is. And I think that leadership does need to take some responsibility in this. And if you need guidance, reach out to the team, reach out to Alex and the team of Optiv, because I think they're the experts in this, right? So, and that's why we're bringing this to the level. So, John, thank you so much for the chat and the presentation and all the great information. So I'm sure we'll see you down the road on other events that we're doing. So I appreciate it. We tried to get John out here. We're hosting the first event at a winery. We're like, well, no, you couldn't have a better excuse to come out to BC, John, to come out to Kelowna and hang out at a winery. So
I haven't said no. I haven't said no.
Thank you. For everyone that's still on, I appreciate you guys staying on. Like I said, we'll try to get you out here in a minute here. I just want to remind everyone that we do have our first in-person event Wednesday, March 11th, 5:30, Sandhill Winery. Amazing keynote, Lena Dabbitt. You guys don't want to miss this, trust me. And like I said, look her up. If you haven't heard of who Lena is, she's got 30 years experience, leadership experience in the RCMP. $15 includes a drink. Come and hang out. We have a couple other speakers, or one other speaker for sure. I think that'll be coming as well. The team from Optiv will be as well. So thanks everyone for joining us. Stay connected, reach out. Love to hear some feedback. If you want to make any connections into the team at Optiv, please just let us know. We'll make sure we connect you guys, and watch for announcements for future events. But we're live now with our March 11th event. So I encourage you guys to register, because in the space at Sandhill, it is limited how many people we can put in there. So please register ahead of time. For those who are wondering, I think Canada was up 4-0 when I checked last too. So go Canada. So everyone, thank you for joining. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully see you at our event in March. Thanks everyone. Take care. Have a good